She didn't ask. She didn't hesitate. She didn't lower her voice. I need $9,600 for prom, Lauren. I need it tonight. That was the moment I realized my own sister wasn't calling me as family. She was billing me. This chapter introduces the shock that ignites the conflict, the true power dynamics inside my family, and who I am beneath the role they forced me to play. I was sitting at my desk in downtown Portland, spreadsheets open, rain tapping steadily against the glass like it always does in this city. A $4.2 million commercial build in Beaverton was finally balancing on my screen, the numbers lining up clean and honest. I remember thinking, this is what peace looks like. Then my phone rang. Lauren, my younger sister Bree said, her voice sharp and impatient, like I was already late. I need $9,600 for prom. I blinked. Once, twice. I'm sorry, what? She sighed loudly, annoyed that I needed clarification. Prom, senior prom. The dress alone is $2,850. And that's before hair, makeup, the limo, the after-party space, the photographer, and the content guy. The content guy? I repeated. Yes, she snapped. I'm not showing up looking basic. Everyone's parents are going all out. I pushed my chair back and stood, pacing between my desk and the window. Below me, cars crawled along Burnside like nothing in the world was wrong. Bree, I said slowly, you're talking about prom, not a wedding, not a fundraiser, one night. Her tone hardened. It's once in a lifetime. So is graduating. So is your first job. So is your first apartment. None of those come with a $9,600 invoice. There was a pause. I could practically hear her rolling her eyes. You don't get it. You make good money. This is nothing to you. That sentence hit harder than she knew, or maybe harder than she cared. I worked my way up, I said. I didn't have anyone paying for my milestones. I worked nights. I waited tables. I saved. Oh, that's not my problem, she replied flatly. You're my sister. And you're old enough to get a part-time job, I said. There's a coffee shop 2 blocks from your school. Her voice turned icy. Wow. I'll remember that. I'll tell Mom and Dad you said no. The call ended before I could respond. I stood there, phone still in my hand, my reflection staring back at me in the dark glass. 28 years old. Project manager at Cascadia Buildworks. Promoted twice in 4 years. I'd earned every inch of my life through discipline and exhaustion. But to my family, none of that mattered. To them, I wasn't Lauren. I was the account that never said no. My father didn't call to ask what happened. He called to remind me who I was supposed to obey. And when that wasn't enough, he threatened to erase me. This chapter exposes the true hierarchy in my family, where love is conditional and obedience is currency. My phone rang less than 30 minutes later. I didn't need to check the screen to know it was my father. Lauren, Frank Pierce said the moment I answered. No hello, no pause. What's this nonsense I'm hearing about you refusing to help your sister? I closed my eyes and leaned against the conference room wall. She didn't ask for help. She demanded money. She's 18, he snapped. She doesn't know how to ask properly. She knows how to demand just fine, I said. And $9,600 for prom is excessive. There it was, the sharp intake of breath, the sound he made when someone dared to challenge him. In this family, he said slowly, we don't nickel and dime each other. Family comes first. I've put family first for years, I replied. This is different. How? He barked.
You make more money than anyone in this family. You sit behind a desk all day and push papers around, and suddenly you think you're better than us? That one landed low.
I manage million-dollar construction projects, I said, keeping my voice steady. I don't push papers, and my income doesn't mean I owe anyone blank checks. He laughed, short and humorless. Listen to yourself. Ever since you moved to Portland and got that fancy job, you've forgotten where you came from. I remember exactly where I came from, I said. I remember working double shifts. I remember saying no to vacations because I couldn't afford them. And now you can, he said, so act like it. Silence stretched between us, thick and deliberate. Then he delivered it. Transfer the money to the family account, he said. That's what it's there for. My stomach dropped. For emergencies. This is an emergency, he replied without hesitation. Your sister's reputation is on the line. I almost laughed. Almost. Dad, I said, I'm not doing that. His voice turned cold. Then maybe you need to think about whether you still want to be part of this family. The words sat there, heavy and ugly. You're threatening to cut me off, I said quietly. Over prom? I'm reminding you of your priorities, he corrected. Blood is thicker than money. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, my hands trembling, a familiar knot tightening in my chest. He'd said it before in smaller ways. Hints, guilt, silence, but never this clearly. Pay up or don't belong. And for the first time, I wondered if belonging had always come with a price tag. They didn't wait for my side of the story. They didn't ask what I felt or why I hesitated. They gathered, they agreed, and they decided I was guilty. This chapter reveals how quickly a family can turn into a courtroom and how easily love becomes a weapon. That night, my phone buzzed nonstop on the coffee table while I sat on my couch staring at nothing. Portland was quiet outside, the kind of damp silence that usually calmed me. Not tonight. I picked up my phone and opened the family group text. Mom, Lauren, your father told me what happened. I'm so disappointed. Bree, she literally told me to get a job, like I'm some stranger. Dad, this isn't how we raised you. I felt my jaw tighten. Mom, your sister's senior prom is important. This is a milestone. Bree, everyone else's family is helping. I can't be the only one who looks cheap. Dad, do the right thing. There it was, the phrase they always used when they wanted obedience without discussion. I typed a response, then deleted it. Typed again, erased it. Every explanation I offered in the past had been twisted, dissected, and thrown back at me like evidence of my selfishness. I watched the messages stack up. Mom, you've changed since you moved away. Bree, she doesn't even care how humiliating this is for me. Dad, family supports family. End of discussion. My chest tightened as the pattern revealed itself, familiar and suffocating. This wasn't a conversation. It was a coordinated push, each message designed to box me in from a different angle. Guilt from my mother, outrage from my father, victimhood from my sister. I wasn't being asked to help. I was being corrected. I thought back to other nights like this, other emergencies. Other times I tried to explain, only to be told I was dramatic, cold, ungrateful. Eventually, I'd always caved. Not because I agreed, but because the pressure became unbearable. That's when I noticed what none of them had said. No one asked how I was doing. No one acknowledged my workday. No one said, "Thank you for everything you've already done." The messages weren't about me at all. They were about compliance. My phone buzzed again. Dad, don't bother coming home for Thanksgiving if this is how you're going to act. I set the phone face down, my heart pounding. I knew that threat too. It wasn't about the holiday. It was about isolation, about reminding me how quickly I could be excluded if I didn't fall in line. I sat there in the quiet, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, realizing something that made my stomach turn. They weren't angry because I said no. They were angry because I'd interrupted a system that had always worked in their favor. And for the first time, I didn't rush to fix it. I told myself I was helping because that's what good daughters do. I told myself it was temporary, just until things got better. But the truth kept surfacing. Every time I said yes, they expected the next one. This chapter pulls the past into focus, revealing how generosity slowly turned into obligation. I didn't sleep much that night. Instead, memories kept surfacing, uninvited and sharp, lining up like receipts my mind had been saving for years. I'd never written them down. I'd never wanted to be that person who kept score. But scorekeeping has a way of happening when you're the only one paying. 3 years ago, when Dad lost his job, I wired $6,900 to cover 2 months of the mortgage. He promised it was a loan. Promised he'd pay me back once he was back on his feet. The money was never mentioned again. Not as debt, not as gratitude. 2 years ago, Mom called in tears because her SUV died on the freeway. The transmission alone cost $3,050. I paid it over the phone while she waited at the mechanic's office. She hugged me when I visited the next weekend. That was the last time it came up. Last year, Ree wanted to go on a school trip to Europe. Educational, Mom had said. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, Dad added. The price tag was $4,250. I transferred the money the same day. Bree came back with hundreds of photos. Paris cafes, Rome gelato, matching hoodies with our friends. I don't remember a thank you. I remember scrolling past the pictures. Then there were the smaller things. Costco runs when groceries were too expensive. Picking up the dinner bill because we'll get it next time. Birthday gifts I bought for everyone because it felt easier than watching the awkward pause when no one else stepped up. At first, I told myself it was love, that I was lucky to be in a position to help, that families took care of each other. But slowly, something shifted. They stopped asking if I could help and started assuming I would. If I hesitated, the tone changed. Confusion turned into disappointment. Disappointment into accusation. And every time I pushed back, I was reminded of everything they'd ever done for me growing up, as if childhood was a debt I was still paying off. I realized something that made my chest ache. They never worried about my savings. They never asked about my stress. They never wondered what saying yes cost me. They just waited for the transfer. I sat up in bed, staring at the dark ceiling, a thought forming with uncomfortable clarity. This wasn't support anymore. It was a system, and systems don't stop on their own, especially when they're working exactly as designed. It was supposed to protect us in emergencies. It was supposed to be fair, shared, and temporary. Instead, it became the quiet machine that kept me trapped for 5 years. This chapter exposes the financial trap disguised as family unity, and the moment I finally see it for what it is. The family account was my father's idea. 5 years ago, right after I landed my first real position at Cascadia Billworks, Dad sat me down at the kitchen table in Vancouver. Mom had made a casserole, the kind she always made when she wanted a serious conversation to feel warm. We should all have a safety net, Dad said. A shared account. For emergencies. We're a team. I believed him. I opened the account the next week. We all had access. We all agreed we'd contribute what we could. Only one of us ever did. Month after month, my paycheck fed that account. 500 here, 1,000 there. More when someone said they were short on utilities or behind on a credit card. Whenever I asked if anyone else could pitch in, I got the same answer. We're barely getting by. You make more than us. Just until things improve. Things never improved. That account stopped being a backup and became a guarantee. They didn't check with me before spending from it. They checked after, if at all. And when the balance dipped, I felt the pressure to refill it because if I didn't, I knew what would follow. Guilt, silence, threats. That morning, after a night of nonstop messages, I woke up to 34 missed calls and 68 unread texts. I didn't even open them at first. I already knew the theme. Transfer the money. Fix this. Don't embarrass us. I made coffee, hands steady despite the storm in my chest, and opened my banking app. The family account balance stared back at me. $11,980. I knew, without hesitation, that every single dollar came from me. No deposits from Dad, no contributions from Mom, nothing from Bree. Just my labor, my overtime, my restraint. And suddenly, everything clicked. They weren't panicking because I'd hurt them. They were panicking because the machine might stop working. If you've ever felt pressured to give money just to keep the peace, pause here. Do you think family should have unlimited access to one person's wallet? Leave a comment with your thoughts, because what happens next will change everything. I stared at the screen longer than I needed to. For 5 years, I'd called it our account. But ownership isn't about access. It's about who pays the price. And I finally knew exactly what I had to do. I didn't argue. I didn't announce it. I didn't ask for permission. I just stopped the machine and listened to the panic on the other side. This chapter marks the first real act of resistance, and the moment power quietly shifts. I moved the money before I could talk myself out of it. No dramatic music, no shaking hands, just a calm screen, a few taps, and a confirmation message that felt heavier than it looked. $11,980 transferred to personal savings. Family account closed. The entire process took less than 2 minutes. I set my phone down on the kitchen table and stood there, waiting for my heartbeat to catch up with my decision. For a brief moment, there was nothing. No sound except the hum of the refrigerator and the rain outside. Then the phone lit up. Calls, messages, voicemails stacking faster than I could read them. I didn't answer. I grabbed my bag and headed to work, the city moving around me like any other weekday. People hurried across crosswalks, coffee shops opened their doors. The world didn't collapse just because I finally said no. By the time I reached my desk, the family group text had exploded. Mom, Lauren, what did you do? Dad, call me right now. Bree, are you serious? You had no right. I silenced the thread and opened my email instead. 10 minutes later, Megan appeared at the edge of my cubicle, coffee in hand. You okay? She asked, scanning my face. I hesitated. Then I told her everything. The prom demand, the threats, the account, the money. She didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she set her coffee down slowly. That's not family, she said. That's payroll. Something in my chest loosened. They'll say I overreacted, I replied. That I blew everything up. Of course they will, she said. People who lose access always call it betrayal. The rest of the day passed in a strange blur. Meetings, emails, deadlines. I did my job well, maybe better than usual, because for the first time,
My energy wasn't being siphoned off by dread. I didn't check my phone until I got home. There were dozens of missed calls, some angry, some pleading, some just heavy breathing and silence. I listened to none of the voicemails. I knew what they'd say. You embarrassed us. You went too far. You didn't have to do this.
But here was the truth they wouldn't say out loud. They never thought I would do anything at all. I placed my phone face down on the counter and leaned against it, feeling something unfamiliar settle in. It wasn't joy. It was control. And for the first time, it belonged to me. She tried tears when anger failed. She tried history when facts cornered her. And when neither worked, she finally heard the word she feared most. No. This chapter brings the first face-to-face reckoning, where guilt is stripped of its power and boundaries are spoken out loud. Mom called that evening. I stared at her name on my screen for a long moment before answering. Not because I was afraid, but because I needed to be calm. Truly calm. If I spoke while angry, she'd twist it. She always did. "Lauren," Diane said the second I picked up. Her voice was high, tight, already cracking. "What were you thinking?" "I was thinking about my money," I said evenly.
"You closed the account," she said, as if saying it out loud might undo it. "That account was for all of us." "No," I replied. "It was funded by me." There was a pause, then a sigh designed to sound wounded. "You know your father and I couldn't contribute. You know how tight things have been." "I do know," I said. "I've been paying for them." "That's not fair," she snapped. "We raised you. We sacrificed for you." "And I'm grateful," I said. "But raising me was your responsibility. Funding your lifestyle as an adult is not mine." Her breathing sharpened. "This is really about Bree, isn't it? You're punishing her." "I'm not punishing anyone," I said. "I'm stopping." Another pause. Then the softer tone, the one she used when anger stopped working. "Honey, families help each other. That's how we survive." "I've helped for years," I replied. "I paid the mortgage. I fixed your car. I paid for Bree's Europe trip. I've covered groceries, dinners, bills."
What more was I supposed to give? Silence. "When was the last time you asked how I was doing?" I continued. "Not what I could give, not what I could fix, how I was." She didn't answer. "That's the problem," I said. "You don't see me as a daughter when money is involved. You see a solution." "That's not true," she whispered. "Then why did Dad threaten to cut me out of the family over prom?" Her breath caught. "We didn't mean it like that," she said. "Yes, you did," I replied. "And I heard you." I felt my hands shaking, but my voice stayed steady. There would be no more money, no emergencies, no exceptions. If you want a relationship with me, it has to exist without my wallet. She sniffed. "So that's it? You're just done?" "I'm done being your bank," I said. "I'm still your daughter. That part hasn't changed." The line was quiet for a long moment. "I need time," she said finally. "So do I," I replied. I ended the call and sat there, staring at the dark window, my reflection looking older somehow, but stronger. For the first time, I hadn't defended myself. I hadn't explained. I hadn't apologized. And the world hadn't ended. It had simply adjusted. The truth didn't come from my parents. It didn't come from my sister. It came from the one person who finally felt guilty enough to speak. This chapter delivers the quiet betrayal that confirms everything I feared and ends all doubt.
The number was unfamiliar when it lit up my phone 2 days later. I almost ignored it. Almost. Something in my gut told me not to. "Hello?" I said. "Lauren?" The voice on the other end was hesitant. "It's Jenna, Bree's friend, from school." My stomach tightened. "Is something wrong?" "Yes," she said quickly. No. I don't know. I think you deserve to know something." I sat down in the edge of my couch. "Okay, tell me." There was a long pause filled with nervous breathing. Then she spoke. "We were at Bree's house a few days ago," Jenna said, "planning prom stuff. She was on the phone with someone, bragging." "Bragging about what?" I asked. Jenna swallowed. "About you." The word landed heavy. "She said you'd cave," Jenna continued, "that you always do once your mom starts crying. She laughed and said she'd been draining you for years, that prom was just the grand finale." For a moment, I couldn't speak. The room felt smaller, the air thicker. I stared at the wall across from me, every memory from the last 5 years rearranging itself with brutal clarity. "She said that?" I finally asked. "Yes," Jenna whispered. "And I know she's my friend, but that was wrong. I couldn't keep it to myself." I closed my eyes. So this wasn't ignorance. It wasn't immaturity. It wasn't entitlement born from cluelessness. It was strategy. "Thank you for telling me," I said, my voice distant even to my own ears. "I'm really sorry," Jenna said. "You didn't deserve that." After the call ended, I sat there in silence, my phone resting in my lap like something dangerous. The words echoed in my head. Draining you for years. Grand finale. I didn't cry. I opened my laptop. One by one, I pulled bank statements. Month after month, year after year. Transfers labeled family, utilities, help, emergency. I created a spreadsheet listing dates and amounts, watching the total climb higher with every entry. When I was done, the final number said at the bottom of the page, $76,900. I stared at it, not with shock, but with understanding. This wasn't about prom. It never had been. I picked up my phone and scrolled to one name I trusted completely, Aunt Carol. If I was going to finish this, I was going to do it with my eyes wide open. She didn't soften the truth. She didn't ask me to forgive. She gave me permission to stop bleeding and to walk away without looking back. This chapter delivers clarity, strategy, and the final emotional armor I need before cutting the cord for good. Aunt Carol answered on the second ring. "Hey, kiddo," she said. "What's going on?" I didn't ease into it. I couldn't. Once I started talking, everything poured out. The prom demand, Dad's ultimatum, the family account, the call from Jenna, the spreadsheet glowing on my laptop like a verdict. When I finished, there was silence on the line. Then she exhaled slowly. "Lauren," she said, "they didn't lean on you. They bled you." That single sentence settled something deep in my chest. "I keep wondering if I went too far," I admitted. "If I overreacted." "No," Carol said firmly. "You reacted late." I let out a shaky laugh. "That sounds like you." "Good," she replied, "because you need to hear this without sugar. What they did wasn't family support. It was emotional extortion." You're not the villain here. Villains don't feel conflicted. We talked a little longer about boundaries, about grief that comes with freedom, about how walking away doesn't mean you don't love them. It just means you love yourself too. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table, phone face down, the city lights glowing through the window. I opened the family group text one last time. Messages were stacked in panic now. Utilities overdue, mortgage behind, Bree furious, Mom pleading. I typed slowly, deliberately, without anger. I stated the total. I stated the years. I stated the truth. Then I pressed send, exited the chat, and blocked every number tied to my last name. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was earned. I didn't scream. I didn't celebrate. I simply stopped carrying what was never mine to begin with. And that quiet decision changed the direction of my entire life. The weeks after I left the family group chat felt strange in a way I hadn't expected. I kept waiting for the guilt to crash down on me. The sleepless nights, the second guessing, the urge to fix things. Instead, I felt something closer to peace. The kind that settles in slowly, like your body finally realizing it's no longer under attack. At work, I poured myself into a major commercial project on the outskirts of Portland. Bigger scope, bigger team, bigger responsibility. I stayed late, not out of fear this time, but focus. A few weeks in, Donna Caldwell called me into her office. "You've been doing exceptional work," she said, sliding a folder across her desk. "I'm promoting you to senior project manager, effective immediately." I stared at her. A raise, a title, recognition that had nothing to do with what I could give away. That night, Megan took me to a small diner downtown. We split a slice of pumpkin pie and laughed until the waitress refilled our coffee for the third time. "You look lighter," she said. "I am," I replied. And I meant it. Life kept moving forward. I opened a retirement account, started saving for myself for the first time without fear of it disappearing. On a Saturday morning at the farmer's market, I met Ethan. Kind, thoughtful, and uninterested in anything but who I was. No expectations, no invoices. Word filtered back eventually. My parents had to downsize. My father picked up extra shifts. Bree took a part-time job after school. The world didn't end without my money. It adjusted. One evening, months later, an email from my mother landed in my inbox. An apology. Not a request, not a demand. Just an acknowledgement that they had taken too much and understood why I walked away. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Standing by the river at sunset, watching the water move steadily west, I understood something I'd spent years avoiding. Family isn't supposed to drain you dry. Love isn't proven by how much you give up. And choosing yourself isn't betrayal. It's survival. I hadn't taken revenge. I had taken my life back. Life lesson. Sometimes the hardest boundary to set is with the people who taught you to feel guilty for having one. If love only exists when you're useful, it isn't love, it's control. If you felt this story, please leave a like for the channel. If you have advice or thoughts for Lauren, share them in the comments below. Let us know where you're listening from. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Wishing you health and peace. And we'll see you again in the next story on Revenge Story.